Welcome to episode 30, our season 2 finale. Tonight on the Invention Laboratory, we will wrap up with a complete overview of the Invention Brief Process. If you've been following along the last 2 seasons, congratulations, you've made it. You worked extremely hard and you deserve to celebrate. Creating a solid invention brief isn't a walk in the park, but it is crucial to your success. We've touched on the many avenues that you can take when bringing a product to market, creating a business, and setting yourself up for success and failure. Now it's time to give yourself a proper outline and get to work if you haven't already. While you're completing the following steps, keep our motto in mind: educate, invent, network, and repeat. So grab your pen, get your paper, and let's get started. The Invention Brief creation process is a 10-step process that prepares you for the product development and licensing or distribution phases of inventing. Product clarity and credible research is essential when deciding whether your idea deserves to be seen by investors, manufacturers, and more importantly, the public. Not every idea deserves to become a product. The initial ideas of independent creators or R&D departments needs a litmus test of sorts to mitigate risk and assess potential reward. While no one has the ability to determine how the public will receive any new product, there are still years of precedent and analysis that can be used to make educated decisions on whether or not to pull the trigger on that project or product. These 10 steps can serve and will serve as a benchmark for your creative process. Step number 1. Answer this simple question: why am I doing this? Step number 2, create an invention profile. If you need a template, reach out to us at kcharltonindustries.com and we'll provide you with a copy. The goal is to clearly define who you are, what your product or project is, who it will benefit, and why customers or companies would find it useful or unique. Begin to think about your definition of success and how it'll affect your ability to make decisions and persevere when the process becomes difficult. Step number 3, complete your preliminary invention brief. This is the process of getting it all down on paper. If you need a refresher on this process, revisit episode 5, The Verbal Vortex. Step number 4, evaluate your preliminary brief with product simplicity in mind. Step number 5, start your general research process. Focus on keywords, working titles, and the technology associated with your product. Use the Google Patents database to reference against publicly available IP, and the shopping filter on Google's search engine to run checks against currently available products. Investigate online catalogs, magazines, and retail establishments to obtain information that will assist in the development of your project or the demise of your project due to pre-existing products or protections that you can't work around or improve upon. You can also use the USPTO website to search for prior art. Step number 6, complete an industry analysis. Knowing your industry as well as your competition will give you an advantage as you go through the process and a leg up once you enter the boardroom with your product. The numbers and value of your industry are great presentation materials when pitching your project to investors, manufacturers, or business partners. For example, the garden industry is a $47.8 billion industry with an average household spending of $503 per year just on the retail products alone. If you'd like to be thorough, you can also perform an industry search through services like Dun & Bradstreet. They'll provide you with a description of the industry, analyze competitors, show top companies and manufacturers, and identify the top products in each category. Most of that information is available online for free. Dun & Bradstreet also provides SIC and NAICS codes associated with that industry. If you sign up for a membership, they'll give you a full report that you can just print out and log with the rest of your research. Step number 7, perform a SWOT analysis on your product and its intended industry. Elaborating on your product's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats will allow you to present with transparency, which most people do not do. They usually choose to avoid any information that can be perceived as negative. This can come back to haunt you if you abstain from sharing easily available competitive information with a business partner or an investor. They want to know all of the risks associated with your project, and honesty is going to get you much further than dancing around the truth. Step number 8, professional design assistance. Hire a professional designer to create 2 sets of preliminary drawings based on your partially completed brief. Use simple precautions to protect your project while you navigate the brief creation stage. Confidentiality and non-disclosure agreements are perfectly acceptable forms of protection in the early phase. Most designers will be happy to sign off, and they will usually allow for revisions if there are any issues with the completed work. Your goal is to create preliminary drawings that will help satisfy the USPTO's minimum filing requirement. Having your designer create a 2D technical drawing and a 3D base design will do that. These are not patent drawings for the abstract. They are precursory materials that show proof of concept and reflect the written materials that will be filed with the patent application. If you have the capability to create these materials on your own, or you know someone who can provide the service, then by all means save your money and buy them a case of beer or treat them to dinner. Step number 9, submit all of your preliminary presentation materials to your attorney. Request an official patent search through the USPTO and a patentability opinion for a utility patent, design patent, or both. Do not file the provisional patent application until you get these results and they are positive. If they come back negative, we've already covered your response in episode 14. And finally, step number 10, file your provisional patent application with the USPTO or enter into a confidential relationship with a product development firm or consultancy. Episode 11 covered this process, but the goal is to acquire the status of patent pending for 12 months with the intention of completing all of your perfected presentation materials, including the research, the prototype, and the marketing materials. If you think the development process will take longer than 12 months, hold off on the PPA until you're ready. If you're working with a development firm or a consultant, they can guide you through that process. If you need to conserve capital, you can also file the PPA on your own or with a legal service company instead of your attorney. Companies like LegalZoom will provide the same service at a fraction of the cost. Chances are you're going to fall under what's called a micro-entity status, and the filing will cost you less than $100. Your invention brief is complete once you file the status or you sign a contract to work exclusively with a development firm or consultant. All of these processes were covered in great detail over the last 2 seasons, and they're available to revisit as you work your way through the process. At this point, you're either letting out a huge sigh of relief that this process has come to an end, or you're sweating bullets because you have zero desire to hire professionals to take over your process. Don't worry. If you're in that camp, you are the reason that my business exists in the first place. During season 3 of the Invention Laboratory, we'll begin the process of showing you how to create digital and physical prototypes, understanding general design and engineering practices, and the hands-on education for developing your presentation materials. For those of you that are moving toward the professional oversight, there will still be content for you next season in the form of clarity during the creation process. You'll still need to know what the design process requires and have the ability to do your research to determine whether the company or consultant that you've hired is performing their duties and upholding their contract. This is still the first time that most of you will have ever interacted with a manufacturer, designer, or engineer. I'm looking forward to working with all the new creators that have finally decided to stop dragging their feet and get something accomplished. Whether you follow our independent creator pathway or you've decided that you'd like to collaborate on a project, I will be here to answer any questions you have along the way. Thanks for tuning in to episode 30, and as always, reach out to me with any questions you'd like to have answered in future episodes. Until next time, take care.